What do you do to help your kids when they keep having sibling conflicts that turn into emotional outbursts? Let's talk about it. Hi, everyone. I'm BJ Muir from JesusHelpMeParent.com, and I help you become the parent your kids need so they can become all that Jesus is calling them to be. Have you spent way too much time, like lots of parents, feeling like you're the referee in every battle your kids have? And you're just frustrated and tired and feeling overwhelmed like it'll never end? How do you handle it when one of those kids, or maybe both of them, seem to go from 0 to 60 on the emotion scale instantly? Tonight, I'm going to give you 5 tips of what you can do to help start reducing that in your family. And stay tuned through this whole video because I'm going to give you a free invitation for a seat at my next free parenting webinar. So let's jump right into this content right now. The first thing you want to work on with your kids to reduce all the emotionality that happens in sibling conflicts is teach emotional flexibility. Emotional flexibility is a great sign of emotional health and maturity, but lots of kids struggle with it as they're growing up. The concept is basically this: we start out in our hearts with wishes, desires, and demands. And kids who struggle with emotions often have a difficult time telling the difference between those three. It's one thing to say, "Man, I wish we could have dessert tonight." That's a wish. It's another thing to say, "Boy, I would I'd really like to have dessert tonight." That's more of a desire. And then finally to say, like, "I need to have cookies tonight." Well, there's a demand. The emotional intensity rises, and so does our expectation. Children who struggle with these outbursts when they're fighting over a toy or who gets to get on the swing first in their sibling conflicts are struggling with emotional flexibility. And so we, as their parents, need to teach them this very skill of how to take these demands over small things and lower them down to desires, lower them down to wishes. We need to give them the vocabulary that they need to help them with this. We need to help them with a lot of other strategies that I'm going to talk a little bit about tonight. But emotional flexibility is the first thing we need to work on with our kids. We need to teach our kids a very simple thing that we learned if you watched Frozen: let it go. Kids would be so much better at times if they could just let it go, whatever that thing is. Because some kids, they might get really angry, other kids might get sad. There's lots of big emotions that kids feel at different points. And a lot of times they need to learn how to let it go and let that demand go back down to a desire. Let that desire go back down to a wish. The second thing you want to teach your child to help reduce sibling conflicts and the emotional sibling conflicts is to develop family and individual calming routines. We need to have a plan for when things go off track in family life. It helps when your family has a basic structure for what to do in those situations. When you, as a parent, can look at your kid and just tell them, like, "Hey, why don't you go take a break, calm down, come on back to me when you're ready to process this, ready to talk." That type of a routine that you've practiced during calm times that your kids know how to do lets you then have a strategy for calming down. Now, some kids, they can do that. They can go walk over, have a seat on the couch, calm down, collect their thoughts, realize what they maybe have done wrong, what they need to do better next time, and create a plan for how to do that. There's other kids who are working on that very set of skills, and they might need our support in that. Your kid might need you to be sitting there with them to help them calm down. Some kids need other calming strategies like a hug, a glass of water, a quick walk just around the house real quick, taking a drink. Lots of different things like that that can work. Your goal as a parent is, if your kid isn't able just to kind of calm down and come on back, is to help develop that ability to do that by using some of these other supports at this time and going on a bit of a discovery adventure with your kid to figure out what those things are. The key to making this work, though, because lots of families will say to me, "BJ, we tried deep breathing, we tried, whatever it might be. It didn't work." A lot of times, though, the problem is the only time we used it was when there was a problem. We need to practice calming strategies, whether that's go take a break, whether that's, sit here with me and, have a hug, get a glass of water, go on the trampoline for 5 minutes, whatever it might be. A lot of times, though, we don't practice these routines except for when there's a problem. And that's where we make the mistake as parents. We need to practice lots of times when our kids are calm. I want you to think about the Olympics, which are going on right now, even. Think about how much these Olympians have practiced, how many times they rehearsed their skating routines, how many times they went down hills on all kinds of sleds and toboggans and skis and everything else they go downhill on. How many times they practice and practice and practice. Why do they do all that? They do it because they're training their mind and their body to respond a certain way when the pressure's on. So when the stakes are high, when they're only like, 10 something seconds away from winning the gold and everyone's cheering, the whole world's watching, they feel the pressure. They don't have to think about what they have to do because their bodies know how to respond, their minds know how to deal with that. That's the same for our kids. When emotions get high in a sibling conflict and our kids need to calm down, we don't want them to have to think about how to do this. We want to help them get to as close to automaticity as we can by practicing these calming strategies well before we ever have a problem to deal with. So that's the second of our 5 tips. Number 3, teach your kids how to read and respond to their own emotional cues. You as mom and you as dad know right about when your kid's about to explode or about to cry or whatever your kid's response might be. You see things. So take some time this week if you're not so sure what those cues are and just watch your kid and note for yourself, when do you know what's going on? Do they shrug their shoulders? Do they clench their fists? Do they start to grunt? Do they stomp around? Do they start talking in a harsher voice? Do they get a sassy tone? What are your cues and clues that your kid's about to blow their top, so to speak? Then have a little staff meeting with your kid, pull them in and talk about it. Say like, hey, you're doing a great job on whatever something they're doing a great job on him, but let's talk about how you and your brother, get along when you both want to go on the same swing. Do you know how I know when you're gonna get frustrated with him and do whatever? See if they can answer anything. If they can't, you say, here's how I know. And you show them with your body, mimic it a little bit and say, so what I want you to do now is pay attention to your own body cues and notice when that's happening. If that's happening, use one of those calming strategies that we worked on. And let's go back to point number 2. You're going to point it back to those things. We want to transfer responsibility to our kids so they start picking up on this themselves. They can do that over time if we invest in building their hearts now. And now, when you start seeing a sibling conflict start to happen, where it's starting to look it's going to get emotional, instead of saying, hey, stop that over there, or something like that, you can simply refer to the cues. You can say to your kid, uh-oh, Bobby, check your body. Or, uh-oh, Bobby, how are your shoulders? Or whatever your kid does, call out that thing. And you're just raising the level of awareness and causing your kid now to start noticing the cue more than you. And you're transferring responsibility over to your kid. You know, you also can say, as your kid gets better at this, you kind of graduate your language. So you step back a little bit more and you might say, uh-oh, looks like something might happen. You want to listen to your body. And now you're not even calling out the specific body parts that you're noticing or behaviors you're noticing. You're stepping back and you're causing them to be more reflective. Helping your kids learn how to read their own body cues and then listen to them so they can settle down is key to making this whole thing happen the right way. Now, we've gone through 3 of our 5 tips. And if you found these 3 tips helpful so far, would you do me a favor? Hit that like button on this video. It really helps this content out. Now, tip number 4, you want to teach your kids how to resolve conflicts peacefully. We can't expect that kids know how to do this naturally. We teach them to tie their shoes. We teach them to ride a bike. We teach them how to use a pencil with a piece of paper and write. We teach them how to read. We teach them lots of skills. We need to teach them how to resolve conflict too. Jesus gives us a perfect model for how to resolve conflict. We need to translate that to our kids. That's going to mean we're going to have some staff meetings with our kids. We're going to have a family night together. We're going to make it fun. It's only going to be about 20 minutes. But during that time, we're going to talk about how we resolve conflict. We want to rehearse how we resolve conflict as well with our kids. Do a little bit of role playing. Read some books and, just children's literature, picture books. Notice in movies and just ask, hey, is that the way that should be resolved? What would have been a better way to solve that problem? Get our kids to reflect on the world around them and even their own interactions at times as we teach them correct ways of resolving conflicts peacefully. All right. Tip number 5, and then that bonus information I promised about that parenting webinar. Tip number 5, excuse me, strengthen your child's heart in the opposite direction. I've been talking a lot about this lately with families. We notice right away where our kids misbehaving and the things that are going wrong. We notice when our kids getting angry. We say, oh man, my kid gets so angry, just so frustrated, and we're all focused on the problem over here. What we neglect to do often is focus on the solution over here. If your kid's getting angry, well, the solution is love. That's the opposite emotion there. How do we get our kid to demonstrate love, to demonstrate patience? Maybe that might be another one they might need. Flexibility might be another thing they might need. We want to plant a roadmap of our own parenting skills of how to get to that point B, that right way of thinking, that right way of doing things. Start looking at thinking errors your kid has. Your kid might be fighting over the slide or the swing set or a toy or something like that because they think I'm the older one. I get my way. That's a thinking pattern that needs to be addressed. We want to address that thinking pattern so we can correct it and have our kid, when your kid thinks correct ideas and beliefs, it moves into correct behavior as well. You might just notice a certain way of responding. Maybe one of the siblings is asking nicely, but the other one's like, no. And they don't even realize that no way of responding is actually kind of rude. You might need to educate them and show them, hey, this is what you're doing. How do you feel when I do that to you? This is a better way to respond. Let's practice it right now. But we want to have a plan for how to get to that point B, that other place. Anger versus flexibility, love, patience, something over there. Sadness. When my kid's feeling sad and crying and everything. Well, what about joy? What about contentment? There's a lot of other things over here that we can work on. A kid who's feeling very anxious about something. Well, we want to work on feeling peace. We're going to involve scripture. In all of these, we're going to involve scripture and prayer. We're going to teach them certain skill sets they need. We're going to cast a vision for how point B is so much better. Let me tell you what it's like when you're living life over here at point B. So we want to strengthen our child's hearts in the opposite direction because that will then help us to actually reduce this. So I told you we got 5 tips right here, and I have something else for you. It's a free parenting webinar just for you. If anything that I've been saying here is striking home with you, if you're feeling overwhelmed by all the battles in your family, if you're tired of your kids fighting over the same things over and over again, if you're just tired and frustrated and you feel like you've been looking around for lots of solutions, nothing really seems to fit your family, I want you to show up for my free webinar. It's called 3 Secrets for Solving Sibling Conflicts Without Threats, Punishments, or Bribes. 3 Secrets for Solving Sibling Conflicts Without Threats, Punishments, or Bribes. And right now you're probably saying, BJ, is that even possible? Jesus says it is, so I'm going to agree with him. You can register and save your seat at my free webinar by going to jesushelpmeparent.com/register. jesushelpmeparent.com/register. I'll put the link down below as well for you. So you can just click right there, register today, because this is not a webinar I'm going to be teaching too many times. There's a couple of times I'm going to be teaching it in the next week or so, and then it's going away for a while. So I want you to be there with me, hearing all about, I'm going to give you 3 secrets that you can use to solve sibling conflicts a whole lot better than it's going now. And maybe we can stop feeling so tired, so frustrated, so overwhelmed by all the battles and instead have a family that we only dream of now. If you like this video, please make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe or like or whatever it is, depending on where you're watching me right now. And come on back. I'm going to be live all week this week talking about these very things, the problems we face when our kids are fighting each other and how we can empower them to not only resolve, but even reduce those sibling conflicts. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.